And welcome to John's Box, my YouTube channel. And in the third part of 3 of Politics in Swindon, I'm going to summarise the general election results in the Swindon North and Swindon South constituencies, which saw a change of Member of Parliament in both cases, with Heidi Alexander becoming the new member for Swindon South. She was, of course, an MP a couple of years ago in one of the Lewisham constituencies, and Will Stone becoming the new MP for Swindon North, both of them ousting the Conservatives, Sir Robert Buckland and Justin Tomlinson, who had been MPs since 2010. Both of them serving approximately 14 years, which is more or less the record, or equaling the record, of Simon Coombs, who was a Swindon Member of Parliament when Swindon was one constituency, and before him David Stoddart, who served around 13 years. So that's just a little bit of history. Now, I'm going to compare my predictions with the official results. And first of all, my predictions were based on the turnout of 64%. I'm not sure if you can see this clearly. So the numbers in that case are slightly higher. However, the order of the parties are absolutely correct. I predicted, obviously, that Labour would take... we're talking here about Swindon North, first of all. In the case of Swindon South too, the order is correct, but we'll come to that later. We'll deal with Swindon North constituency first of all. Now, as I mentioned, the numbers are higher, and also the swing is higher. And I predicted Reform would be third, and particularly here that the Lib Dem vote would be squeezed, which, as far as the national picture is concerned, in most constituencies, or in a lot of constituencies where Labour was fighting against the Conservatives, the Lib Dem vote went down. So there was a lot of tactical voting going on there. But when we look at the percentage of the votes, there is some difference. Now, I'll just, if I could just take this down, you'll see papers flying. I'll put this close up to the screen so that you can see the official result. So here we have the official result in Swindon North. I hope that's clear. Right, so excuse the papers going all over the place. So a higher share for Labour by 3% compared to my prediction. Slightly lower share for the Conservatives by 1.5%. For Reform, it was lower, slightly lower by 2%. Slightly lower for the Greens, but which was just over 1.1%, and slightly lower for the Lib Dems, and the same, slightly higher for the Independents and the TUSC campaign. I'll just pin that back up. The majority secured by Will Stone, just over 4,000. Justin Tomlinson had been defending a majority of 16,000, so that's a colossal swing. But that was the picture across the country. In fact, in Swindon, Labour did better than they did nationally. Nationally 44%, in Swindon 34% nationally, in Swindon 40.6%. The same is with the Conservatives. With Reform 2, the Conservatives 23% nationally, here 31%. Reform 14% nationally, here 17%. The Greens are slightly less than the national picture, and the same goes for the Lib Dems. So Will Stone becomes the new MP for Swindon, replacing, as I've just mentioned, Justin Tomlinson. Turnout was 62%, lower than expected by Calculus. So more or less the figures are in line with what I predicted. And just have a look, if I can find it, what electoral calculus predicted for the seat. Here is the prediction by electoral calculus. I'll just try and put it into focus there. So they were spot on with Labour, more or less. A little bit under, they predicted. Conservatives a bit more than they'd predicted. Lib Dems much less than they'd predicted there. With the Greens, more or less, they were correct. So now we're going to move on to Swindon South. So for Swindon South, where Heidi Alexander turns Robert Buckland's 6,500 majority into her own 9,600 majority. So again, a huge swing, and here are my predictions for Swindon South. Now, or again, based on the higher turnout here, so the numbers do vary. So if we could have a look at the official results, I will just poke them in front of the screen. So here we have the official results for Swindon South. I'll just try and put them into focus. I hope you can see them. So the figures vary slightly for Swindon South, but the order of the parties is correct. So the Labour figures were within my range, but the share was slightly higher. The Conservative share was lower by 3%. Reform votes just inside my range. The share being slightly lower. The Green vote within my range, share higher, and Lib Dems slightly below the actual vote and slightly lower shares. The others were higher. Now, in both seats, the Lib Dems had their lowest ever share in Swindon, and the Greens had their highest ever share. Probably there was a lot of tactical voting taking place, but that was the picture all over the countries, with, I guess, some Labour votes going to the Greens. Sorry, some Lib Dem votes going to the Greens and to Labour, respectively. But there was only 4,000 votes for the Lib Dems in both seats in the last election, so there wasn't too much to distribute there. However, the results do reflect or overestimate the national picture as far as the Conservative, Reform and Labour candidates are concerned. As far as the national picture is concerned, these are the predictions I'd made just before the election, and I particularly got wrong Labour's share of the vote by 10%. In terms of the number of seats, I was 6 out. I was 12 out for the Conservatives, 2 out for Reform UK. I predicted 5%. With the share, I was more or less correct with the Conservatives. With Reform, I'd underestimated the share. With the Lib Dems, I was just a touch out. They got 12.2%. I predicted 10% for them. With the Greens, I was just below. With the Lib Dem seats, I was way out. So I predicted 38, but still within my range. Still within my range of 75. In fact, everything is within my range. This is the range here. The others were rather easier to predict. I went for 3 reforms, we got 5. I was way out for the Scott Nuts. I overestimated their result, so instead of 33 they came in with 9. Plaid, that was relatively easy to predict. With the others I won't go into any detail. So on 33.7% of the votes, Labour gets 412 seats. Now, I shall make a separate video on the national picture regarding voting reform, because had proportional representation been in place, Labour would have had just above the third of the seats. For example, instead of the 412 seats, so Labour would have come away on approximately 220 seats. Now, I don't think that would have been enough, definitely not enough to form a government, and we'd have to go into a coalition with other parties, perhaps in this case either the Lib Dems or Greens and Lib Dems or Greens, but that's a matter for another video. So that's it for today. That's it for the politics of Swindon for quite a long time, because the next local elections aren't due until 2025. Allow me to drink some coffee, unless there's a by-election, and of course I will cover that if there was to be one, which I doubt. So that's it. Thanks again for sticking to the end. I hope you found it interesting. One more thing, when I'm thinking about comments, in my previous video I wasn't sure whether the Prime Minister had visited, or rather the former Prime Minister had visited Swindon. I'm referring of course to Rishi Sunak. However, one of my followers, or rather subscribers, informs me that Rishi had visited the Swindon constituencies. So there's just something I want to put straight. Of course, we didn't see the Lib Dem leader doing any stunts in Swindon, but of course around the Swindon constituencies we have mostly orange seats. The only Conservative is Wiltshire East, just below Swindon. So they elected a Conservative MP. All the others are Lib Dem there. So Swindon's, both Swindons are sort of in the middle of others. You'd have to go up to Stroud, Gloucester, or to Oxford East and Reading to find the next Labour MP. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to comment and all the usual YouTube stuff. I hope you've enjoyed the series of videos on Swindon's elections, and please support my channel, and see you again in another video. Bye for now.